You, my subscribers, asked for me to test more toothbrushes than I did in my last popular toothbrush video. So I'm gonna show you the most popular toothbrushes that are out there. That way you don't spend years thinking you're getting a good brush and it's actually terrible. And in this video, there is a clear and a new winner to my old video on toothbrushes. For each toothbrush, I start by staining my plaque. So then by the end, you can see where they're still stained is where the toothbrush failed to clean sufficiently. So here in my first example, I will show you the results of brushing with a regular toothbrush for about 40 seconds, which is actually a little more than the average of how long people brush that don't use a toothbrush with a timer on it. You can see it missed a lot, but then now I'm gonna go for 2 minutes. So let me just strictly put in a plug. One of the biggest advantages of mechanical and electric toothbrushes is their timer, because it forces you, or almost forces you, to brush the full 2 minutes, which is probably the most important thing to brushing, as you will see in this video. Now here you can see the results are obviously better when I added the extra minute and 20 seconds and brushed the full 2 minutes. Next, we move to another manual toothbrush infused with charcoal in the bristles. In my last video, a charcoal infused bristle head toothbrush had better results than Sonicare and Oral-B. So I wanted you to see that this may be because any toothbrush head with the charcoal infusion might be the reason why it did better. Remember, because you likely will not be brushing correctly at a 45-degree angle and the full 2 minutes. As you can see, it does look like the charcoal infused brush head performs better than the regular brush head as it gets further in between the teeth. And you can see that manual toothbrushes will get you good results, but it misses some of the easiest spots on the surface of the teeth, as you can see, and this is one of the greatest advantages of the electric toothbrushes. Now, I'm just gonna quickly show you that when I stick the floss in between my teeth, even though it looks like I got really far in between the teeth, you can still see pink on this floss. So you still need to floss after you brush your teeth no matter what, because that pink is plaque. Now I won't show you the floss on everyone, but the one that is amazing, I will show you because it is a lot less than this one does. So now we know that manual toothbrushes can be actually pretty dang good. But what about a super cheap battery operated electric toothbrush to compare before we get into the more expensive ones? The big issue is that it doesn't have a 2-minute timer, which is a must in my opinion. You can buy a timer, but those don't have the 30-second beeping mechanism that lets you know to switch quadrants when brushing. So this cheap electric toothbrush works almost as well as some and better than others of the more expensive models, as you will see. But there are a few that are definitely better than this. You can see it actually works fairly well. It misses a common spot on my lower tooth where I have a tooth that's kind of out of place, but it got far in between most of the teeth as long as they were in line with one another. But most people do have teeth that are a little out of place, and so you're gonna see that spot in a lot of these videos gets missed. You do need a timer. So remember, I will link to one in the description below along with all the toothbrushes that I use in this video and especially the ones I recommend. Now let's move on to a trendy toothbrush right now. The Quip toothbrush is based off a subscription business model where they send new brush heads as your current brush head gets old. Though I'm not really sure this is necessary, but that's just me. One thing I didn't really like about this was that it was expensive and still a battery operated toothbrush, whereas the other one I did was pretty good and cost less than 10. What is worse than all of that though is that this was the worst toothbrush when it came to results. I could just tell also when I was brushing that this was not getting the great results that some of the other toothbrushes I had used did. And I hate to tell you this, but I just think Quip needs to go back to the drawing board on their toothbrush. I shouldn't say it was the worst, because even worse was the 360 toothbrush I tested in my last video and I'm showing you again here, which, as you know, I was excited to use because theoretically you would only have to brush 30 seconds and that's a minute and a half less than you'd have to brush anywhere else because it brushes all your teeth at the same time. But here at the end, you will see that the results are not very good at all. The light here is a gimmick for tooth whitening, which is now how they sell this, but that doesn't work either, and you can watch my other video on how to really whiten your teeth for the best results and to bust all the myths of tooth whitening that you see on the internet. And it's cheap and it's fast to whiten them, but as you can see, this toothbrush's results are not as good. Speaking of time-saving toothbrushes, the next toothbrush has a triple head that brushes with a sonic movement front, back, and on top of the tooth at the same time. Therefore, its box states that you can brush in 1/3 of the time. Makes sense. So we tried it. But we soon found out they don't even stand by that claim. There was only a 2-minute timer on this toothbrush and no 40-second timer, which is 1/3 of the time of the 2 minutes. And you can see why. The results were really bad after 40 seconds, which we did on our own timer since they didn't have one. So then we tried it the next day on a 2-minute timer, even though that defeats the purpose to me of even getting this toothbrush. Because you will see there are a lot of great toothbrushes that don't have 3 heads and can be brushing at 2 minutes as well. Now, the reason why I was so excited about the shorter time brushing is because you save 1 minute and 20 seconds each day. That's almost 16 hours a year you get back if you're brushing twice a day. So I hope they do keep trying to make a time-saving toothbrush, because you can see after 2 minutes, the results were actually pretty good. But there were definitely way better toothbrushes than this. I just think they need to keep working on the design just a little bit. But for 2 minutes, it does sufficient, but not the best. So let's get to the 2 biggest and most popular electric toothbrushes. With my toothbrush that I have used for a long time now, my trusty Sonicare toothbrush. I thought before I did my last video, this was going to be the best toothbrush. It just feels nice when I use it. The flaw in what I'm doing is this is 1 day of brushing, and an official study would be with many people brushing multiple days, and controlling many variables would need to be done to make this an official study. But you can get a good idea. But I mean, to my credit, I am brushing very lazily with these, because that's how I and most people normally brush every day. The truth is, I was surprised Sonicare missed the typical spot on my tooth that is out of place, and you can just see right there, it just didn't get it sufficiently. But the results were good, not great. And even some of the cheaper brushes, you can see, just did just as good as this. Next, we look at one of Oral-B's. Now, I always felt Oral-B felt a little cheap, especially for how expensive it is. But I tested it out anyways, because I wanted everyone to see how it stacks up to the competition. I fully expected the brush would not hold up, especially to Philips Sonicare. Remember, all these toothbrushes can be found in the links below this video, and that does help support my channel. After 2 minutes, it did a better job than Sonicare, and really good, except it still sort of missed that tooth out of place as well. And full disclosure, I was able to go back in and remove that spot, but that's not realistic, because the only reason I was able to do that was the spot was with dye, and I was able to go and focus right in on that spot, and you will not be able to do that because our plaque won't be dyed with pink. Next, we move on to Burst. Burst is a toothbrush that is popular amongst the dental professionals, and it has charcoal infused bristles. I love the design of their brush head. The mechanical part felt a little cheaper than Sonicare though. I fully thought this brush was not going to give great results. Now, just a quick plug for myself. If you are looking for an honest and good dentist and you happen to live in Southern California, my dental website is in the description below this video. But the results were amazing. You can even hear my wife's reaction at the end.
That worked really good.
Wow, this was the best up until this point, and less than half the cost of either of the more popular toothbrushes. I highly recommend this brush, and I will obviously link to it in the description below. Because of the inconveniences you're gonna see with the best one, this one might be the option you wanna go with. Another electric toothbrush is called Foreo Issa hybrid toothbrush, and Foreo, I guess, is a makeup company that decided to get into toothbrushes. This brush has a hybrid of regular bristles and silicone bristles. When I first put this brush in my mouth, it felt like it was murdering my teeth. But as soon as I got used to it, it wasn't that bad. At the end of the results, they were actually pretty good, but it didn't get far in between the teeth as some of the others, especially considering you have to press hard. Don't forget to watch my video on teeth whitening if you want to know the real way to do it and not get stuck on all those gimmicks. Overall, the experience wasn't my favorite, but it felt like it was built well. However, a lot of people online complained of it breaking. Overall, it was an okay brush, but still, Burst, in my opinion, was way better. Let's go on to another bizarre toothbrush. I got a few requests for this one. It's called, I think, Emmi Dent. This toothbrush took 4 minutes to brush because the instructions say you actually shouldn't manually brush. It uses true sonic movements, and brushing would interfere with that. Now, because of the true sonic movements, for some reason that I don't understand, you have to use their toothpaste. And what you do is every few seconds, you beep and you switch it forward to the next few teeth. And you just keep it there. You don't move the brush at all. Now, their commercial states, this made me laugh, their sonic movements implode the bacteria. Well, I don't know about that, especially when they show the bacteria exploding in the commercial. I mean, that's awesome if that's what it does to your bacteria, but I digress. I was actually surprised to see that it did anything at all because you're just holding it there. It feels so funny. But it did, and the results were, you know, not great at all. But hey, I guess at least it did something. It exceeded my expectations. But even if it did, do you really want that plaque still sitting on your teeth? You don't. Now let's move on to the Waterpik toothbrush. This combines the electrical movements of some of the brush heads we've seen already and the advantage of using a Waterpik as well. I set the Waterpik to the highest setting because I didn't want anybody coming back and saying, you should have done it even stronger. The first day I tried this, it ran out of water a little bit after brushing half of the 2 minutes. So the next day I tried it again and I refilled the basin halfway through and was able to do the whole mouth. So the Waterpik toothbrush is hands down the winner when it comes to removing plaque, but it does have a few shortcomings. It does rinse all of the toothpaste out of your mouth, which means there's not enough fluoride sitting on your tooth if that's something you want, which most people do. If you brush without water, the toothbrush isn't that good and is not that effective. And when I did the floss test that I showed you earlier, it barely had any pink come out on the floss. The brush was a little messy since water is constantly flowing out of the machine and out of the mouth. But it got very far and almost very thoroughly in between the teeth. But seriously, just amazing. Now here's one thing you may not realize. There's another benefit. You can add fluoride rinse to this if you want to fight cavities. You can also add Listerine or Peroxyl to fight gum disease, or TheraBreath rinse to fight bad breath. So if you want, add any of those things to the basin to fight whatever it is that you want to fight. For holistic people is you can add ozone water. This just massacres all the bacteria in your mouth. Ozone water is amazing, but it is an extra step. Now, while I am going to switch to this toothbrush, my wife is switching to Burst due to it not being so messy and some of the better things, which I understand. Links to the best place to buy toothbrushes are found below in the description. In my videos, I talk about big purchases like health, travel, home automations, diamonds, and much more. Like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.